I hate cliffhangers. This is the review of Champions, and I'm your host, Grandmaster. With me is a powerful panel made up of, the champions. You know them. But I will introduce them nonetheless. For voice only, we have Mr. Lord Deathman. How are you?
I'm doing well today. Thank you.
Also, voice only, we have Loki's mom. How are you?
Doing real good.
That's great to hear. Uh, on camera, showing his beautiful face, Merv. How are you, man?
A little bit of hay fever, but otherwise good.
And last but certainly not least, we have the original Mr. Taylor first. How are you?
I'm excellent, thank you.
That's great to hear. Um, Today we're going to talk about episodes 8 and 9 of Daredevil Born Again. Yes, last week life got in the way, so we're doing the last two episodes today. But before we do that, I want to ask you all to help us out. Like and share this video, subscribe to our channel, and join our forum at soccer.freeforums.net. If you want to, you can join us in our reviews and podcast. And how you get there? Well, start by clicking on the link in the description. That will get you to Sakar, to the page where you can set up an account, and we'll take things from there. Consider this your final warning. After this point, spoilers are incoming. So if you haven't seen the last two episodes of Daredevil Born Again, do that first and then check out our review. Matt and Fisk, they are heading for that ultimate showdown. Or are they? Merv, what did you think of the last two episodes of Daredevil Born Again?
I loved them. I thought, one, I loved all the returns that have been absent for the majority of this season. That includes Bullseye, that includes Karen, that includes Punisher. You know, just them all coming back at the end felt like a really nice, little. They're here. You know. And two, I love just where these two characters' trajectories wound up, which we kind of knew where they were. You know, we knew from the start that these two characters, meaning Fisk and Murdoch, were not going to be able to stay under their false, realities for very long, and they both pretty much came back, putting their classic suits on in I believe episode 8. Fisk, dons his white suit for the first time all season, I believe, and of course he gets a little bit of blood on it in the process, which is just natural. But I really like just where this ended up. I feel like a lot of people might look at it where we kind of ended where these characters kind of left off with the Netflix series, but this journey is the story here. Them having those setbacks and then coming back around, and now we're kind of so many things are set up going forward as far as where this story is going to go in a season 2, I presume, or a part 2, or whatever they're going to do there. So I'm really excited for that.
Yeah. Lokismom, it did feel like a mid-season cliffhanger finale type thing. They left us hanging, don't you think?
Yeah, on the end of episode 8, absolutely. But I thought it was really good that instead of that would sort of be the typical season-ending cliffhanger. The hero is always you alive or dead. But no, they didn't do that to us. They gave us another episode after that, so we knew Matt was, whatever reason, Matt was going to be in the next season, in the next episode. My worry though was it was going to be some wild out of body death experience where he meets Foggy and he goes through all this stuff. And thankfully they didn't do that either. So yeah, it was. I really enjoyed it in both episodes, and it just really the entire series. I mean, it really capped it off at that point.
Mm. Yeah, I'm also happy they didn't go full Doctor Strange on Matt. Taylor, what did you think of the last two episodes?
I thought they were excellent. I thought they continued the high quality of the rest of the season. I fully expected there to be a cliffhanger because we knew there was going to be a season 2. So they're definitely going to stop on a cliffhanger. But I thought the episodes were excellent. The story it continued the story. You know, everything Merv said about the character arcs. That is the whole point of this season, is these two guys trying to change and not being able to for whatever reason. And I think they did a great job.
Mm, yeah, I have to agree. Lord Deathman, last but certainly not least, what are your quick thoughts on the final two episodes of Daredevil Born Again Season 1?
Yeah, I was deeply disappointed.
Mm,
I thought, no, I'm kidding. I have nothing but praise for these last two episodes. I thought they brought the whole series together excellently. I had no problems with the cliffhangers. I haven't been looking around at, what people have thought about this as a whole for the fandom, but I think the word, if I could use it to say how I really felt about these last two episodes, is I thought they were very satisfying.
mm,
I thought they kind of brought things together in a way. I had my doubts as I was going along with the series. I was like, okay, where is this leading? This is kind of weird depravity. There's a guy in a cage. But I think these last two episodes kind of cemented all of the motivations. They brought back missing gaps that were happening. I was like, okay, so how did Fisk get out of prison, right? And that kind of gets solved at the mental hospital. You get so they tie up so many loose ends and they deliver on so many satisfying character arcs. I'm particularly thinking of Josie's bar, and that whole exchange where you see Matt in costume, outside of it. I thought that was just such an iconic shot of the hero and these people in the bar sort of representing the city that he has to defend. It's just great work. I really love those last two episodes.
yeah, yeah. I think we're all in agreement here. Taylor, aren't you just happy? And I'm going for your deep dive now. And you have a follow up, I believe. Aren't you just happy that they didn't Disneyfy the Daredevil series? Actually, it was kind of violent, especially the last episode.
Well, first of all, Lord Deathman, don't get my hopes up like that again. All right, I thought I was going to be able to tell you how wrong you were when you said it was bad. But
Gotcha.
That may
yes,
still happen.
there was some violence in this show. Imagine that, a show about Punisher and Daredevil and Kingpin being violent. I'm shocked. This has never happened before. Yes, actually, it has happened before, and we knew it was going to happen. Can we stop? I can't believe there's still people on the internet saying, "Oh, they'll never put that on Disney Plus." They put everything on Disney Plus. Okay, all of the Netflix shows have been on Disney Plus for a long time now. All right, Deadpool and
Oh,
Wolverine are on Disney Plus. I don't think we really have to be shocked that there's violence in this show. And this is the part of the Marvel Cinematic Universe where there's graphic violence. All right, it's a huge, vast universe with many different parts and many different flavors. You can choose what you like. It's a buffet. And this part just happens to have a lot of violence. And when Kingpin crushed that guy's head, it left no question whatsoever that this is the violent corner of the MCU. I thought everything was great. Now, the one question that's still out there is why did Matt put himself in harm's way to save Kingpin? And Punisher even asked him that question, and Matt didn't even answer. He said that's a that's a good question. Of course, we all know it's his. He is a superhero, and that's what he wants to be. And he's doing this not to hurt people, not for vengeance, but to do what's right and make things better. And allowing a person to get killed for something that he didn't do, or even if he did do, he doesn't want to kill anybody. The one time he tried to kill someone, of course, was when he threw Poindexter off the roof, and he's been racked with guilt about that ever since, which is why he tried to stop being Daredevil for a long period of time. But he did what heroes do and blocked the bullet. Now, we all know in the real world that bullet would have gone through him and Kingpin and the two guys behind him too, but it's a comic book, so we're not going to worry about we're not going to worry about that. He does have kind of a bulletproof suit. It doesn't, so maybe we'll say that stopped it from going all the way through him. Is his high tech suit that he got from California or wherever. Um, but it was excellent. I loved the whole ballroom scene for a variety of reasons. One, it was the black and white ball, and Kingpin's wife just shows up in that bright red dress, saying, "Yeah, I'm back." And you remember earlier in the season, he actually kind of pushed her to the side, that she was bad for his brand, that when he was running for mayor and stuff, and didn't want her to be around that much. Well, that's gone, and now she is there, and she is fierce, and she is right next door to him. And then, of course, the other thing that was going on at that party was he was bringing in all those rich and powerful people into the back room and laying down the law to them. That one lady, we don't even know what he said to her, but she had completely done a 360 about don't don't even talk about him badly anymore. Don't make fun of him or anything like that. And she was so above him in the earlier parts of the season, where she almost poo-pooed him as a joke beneath the society. But someone put the fear of God in her, because she was like, no, I'm not saying anything bad about him. And then, of course, he brought Swordsman in and told him, I know your secret. And, of course, later on, we see that Swordsman is in a cage. Hopefully, Punisher will let him out now, since he's escaped. But so he is cracking down on the vigilantes. So, White Tiger's dead. Swordsman's in a cage. Punisher was in a cage. And he can't kill Murdoch right now, even though he knows who Murdoch is, Daredevil, but he can't, partially because of that whole "he saved me" from the assassin bullet thing. That would look really weird if he killed him as a vigilante, when this vigilante saved his life. So I'm thinking he's still thinking on the political side a little bit there. But anyway, I digress. I'm just going through the fact that this is a really well written episode all around, and they did a really great job with all of it. And the action scenes, of course, were fantastic. The fight scenes, Punisher and Daredevil taking out those task force guys when they broke in, and Punisher, saying straight up front, I'm not messing with these guys when they come in here, and Daredevil again trying not to kill anybody, whereas Punisher was just giddy about killing them if they have to. The best part is, no, you can't kill this guy. It's not worth it. He's like, oh, okay. How about this guy? Is he worth it? Bang! Daredevil couldn't save all of them.
That was funny, yeah.
And Punisher didn't give a crap about him. So there's, again, the two different types of superheroes that exist in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And I love, where we are now. The Kingpin has solidified his power. No one in New York is going to stand up to him anymore. No one in New York City, anyway, is going to stand up to him anymore. He's cracking down. He's, declared martial law and all this stuff. He's going to create his city-state in this weird area that, for some reason, is not part of New York City or not part of the United States or something, because of some charter from the 1800s, whatever. It's comic book storyline, MacGuffin, but it works. So he's set up, and Daredevil is, putting together his team and getting ready to put a stop to it. And he's held himself back. He didn't run in where he almost certainly would have gotten killed, even if he was able to take out Kingpin. So he's going to try to be smart about it and strategize about it. One thing I want to note is I still see people online complaining, but it's usually the people who spend their entire life coming up with things to complain about. But I see stuff like, they're going to have to explain how come Spider-Man hasn't gotten involved in this stuff. Well, first of all, Spider-Man's not watching this show. 95% of the things we see happening on this show are not known to the general public. It's not stuff that's all on TV and everything. And when the entire city of New York is blacked out, he didn't have to leave Queens to find people who needed help. All right, you go 2 blocks in New York City when there's a blackout, and you'll find somebody who needs help. So I'm sure all the vigilantes were more than busy enough during the few hours of blackout. And it's only now that that Kingpin has really kind of openly said that he's, declaring martial law, and he's going to kill, or, he's outlawing completely and cracking down on the vigilantes in a very heavy-handed way. So there's really no reason for Spider-Man to have been involved. And like I said, the other vigilantes that we know about, well, we know what Punisher's been doing. We know that Swordsman is, now locked up somewhere and wasn't able to do anything at the time. And, of course, White Tiger's dead. So I don't see any thing that has to be explained by anybody. But like I said, there's still those, there's always the people on the internet who just live to find things to poke their fingers at, But I have no complaints at all about the show.
Um, the reason that Spider-Man doesn't show up is simply because Marvel can't use Spider-Man in a TV show. It's as simple as that.
Which,
They don't
which,
have the
which, is,
rights.
which is an actual rule. It is an actual fact. But for
Yeah.
the storytelling, there's no inconsistency there. Like I said,
No.
99% of what's in this show is behind closed doors, and no one knows what's going on.
Yeah. Exactly. But yeah, people complain about everything. God forbid you can just enjoy something what you get. But anyway, Loki's mom. Do you have any complaints about the last episodes of this show?
No, I mean they really it. One thing I think it was brought out though they sort of started it in episodes before that this cutting between scenes, and I think they kind of got into it heavy where you have 10 seconds of this thing, 10 seconds, and then it's back and forth like that. I don't think that was well served the story. They could have just left those scenes longer and more intact, and it wouldn't have mattered. I don't think anyway to the dramatic tension of the story. I know that's why they were trying to do it for that reason. Um, Otherwise, no. I mean, everything was just it all came together. It loose ends were at least it began with the first series because it begins in Josie's bar and then it ends in Josie's bar. And in some ways, the born again Matt is the guy that's standing there in Josie's bar at the end of the season. This whole season, he and Kingpin, it's been a two edged, and I think that's why they kept doing that intercutting a lot. They're both having this profound existential struggle. Um, Kingpin at the end of Echo, he sort of had to relive his traumatic childhood. I mean, horrible, horrible child abuse that he had to suffer through as a kid, and that's at least if we can have any little bit of sympathy for the man, it's because of that. So he's struggling. He's been trying to be better. He's trying to he like you say, set Vanessa aside. He's tried to be a reasonably legitimate mayor, even if a hard liner, but certainly he's crossed over that now and just totally he's just become the crime boss again that he was as mayor. So that really I think wound up good. And then of course Matt's struggle was he was unable. He the whole thing was Foggy was trying to keep him from putting the suit on again. He didn't want to involve him in this particular case, and the threat that he was under because he was worried for Matt. Of course, Matt he winds up getting killed, and Matt just has this horrible guilt all through the series because of it, and then trying to reform himself and not be who he is. But then at the end of this season, he's refound. He has regained himself, just like Kingpin has regained himself. So they're back to where they were, probably in the Netflix series era, which I think is really good. It's got all that out of the way. So now next season it can just be all whatever, a new story and whatever it's going to be. So I guess in a year we'll find out. So I look forward to that. Yeah, I mean it was all yeah, there wasn't anything I could really complain about. I did like that Frank Castle was able to adhere against sort of a sideline. Frank Castle's been going through a struggle, and then we find out, oh, guess what? He and Karen have been corresponding all this time. So I did like that they left a little bit of there's a little something between Karen and Frank that, well, what about that? So maybe we'll get to see some of that play out next season. And then, of course, I think it was in the episode, the shower scene, the famous shower scene, where at the end of it, they're getting ready to go out the door, and she says, "I love you," and he says, "I love you," and I said, "Oh gosh, this relationship is doomed." And of course, he's there. She's she hates the Daredevil, whoever. She doesn't know it's him yet, doesn't know it's Matt yet, but she really just counts him in as being no better than any other criminal. So yeah, that's going to be a shocker for when she finds that out who he is. But anyway, yeah, everything I really enjoyed, and I'm really looking forward to the next season.
Yeah, me too. Um, yeah, I understand what Taylor was saying about expecting a cliffhanger ending, but I just
Kind of
yeah,
wasn't. Yeah, it was. Yeah, I mean, it sets up. It pretty much wraps up the storyline, I think, for this first season, and then gets us prepped for the next season. Of course, there was that end credit scene, which we got. I don't think we only got one for the whole series, but where Frank is busting out of that the cage, Kingpin's cages, and I'm assuming that sets up the special. He's got a mini movie coming out in a couple months, so I'm assuming that's setting that up, and that'll probably serve as the bridge for the next season, also.
yeah. Mm. I actually like the Punisher in this universe. It's I hope it's good. Um, or Deathman. Do you have any nitpicks or minor complaints, major complaints about these last two episodes, or you just want to, yeah? Uh,
I
also,
don't have any major complaints about these last two episodes. I will say when I saw Isle of Joy, which is episode 8, I was a little concerned. I'm like, they put a lot of, spinning plates in motion here. I'm like, are they really going to be able to pull it all together by episode 9 and kind of explain all of these different things? But I call Isle of Joy like the episode of depravity because that's when Fisk reveals to his wife Vanessa that he's been keeping her lover Adam imprisoned. Like, where is this going? And ultimately, we do see where it's going. That these two are quite ride or die and share the same ruthless streak. Spoilers: Adam does meet his end at Vanessa's hand, and I thought, wow, that's a great way to show that these two just aren't really these are deeply antisocial people, and they need some folks to handle them. I like learning the little pieces of the conspiracy that were kind of starting to come together, where we're learning that Vanessa was kind of responsible for Foggy's death and not necessarily Fisk. The situation between Blake and BB Ulrich, that came together well, and mad props to Michael Gandolfini because he's doing an incredible job on that show. I think he was cast perfectly to become one of Fisk's deputies slash lieutenants. Um, I remember thinking that that wasn't going to work when we heard the rumors that said that he was going to be like Fisk's son or like a long lost relative or something like that. I'm like, oh, that's not going to work. But I was totally wrong about that. He's been doing fantastic work in it. So yeah, it was a kind of strange, like abstract episode to see all these people coming into, at the black tie event, all these folks from the city that Fisk kind of has under his thumb now having to pay allegiance and kind of kiss the ring, and they're all literally going into this room and coming out poor as Fisk kind of lays down the blackmail on them. Thought it was a really good episode, and I feel like they really dig into the pacing that you need for a show like Daredevil. Like, if I could be critical of the first iteration on Daredevil that we had on Netflix, one of the things that I think it was a little guilty of was a bit of navel gazing and kind of spending time in conversations where people question why they're doing what they're doing. And you're like, okay, like we can get past this like in 5 to 10 minutes. We don't have to spend like another 10 minutes talking about why you have this particular behavior. This is a series that's better done when people are kind of reacting to the stimulus in their environment, and they have to make quick decisions and then deal with the consequences of those afterwards. But episode 8, Isle of Joy, really threw me for a loop, and it left me thinking for that like whole week. And then they bring Straight to Hell, which like, what an episode. What a powerhouse of an episode of Daredevil. I think it belongs in your top 10 Daredevil episodes or stories told in live action. It's a fantastic team up between Daredevil and Castle and the Punisher. It's like it's one of those things where the relationship is so tuned, like a finely tuned piano, that you kind of wish like Power Man and Iron Fist could benefit from this kind of shared partnership on screen. They're antagonistic against each other, but as like a fighting unit, that they're just completely unstoppable. And that setup, that set piece in the apartment, incredibly entertaining. I think they raised the bar in terms of the level of graphic violence. I feel like somebody on that in that writers' room was like, we have to take what they did in the first Daredevil series and like ramp it up two notches, and they certainly did it with, especially with Fisk literally crushing a man's skull in Straight to Hell. I was just floored and blown away, and not just for the violence, for the sake of the violence, but the way it all came together story wise. With Fisk ramping up the anti vigilante task force and the citywide blackout, and those officers sort of meeting their hero and finding out that Frank Castle is a living nightmare, who is just like completely unrelenting and not in any way, endorsing their actions, and they're just prey to Frank, just like any other street criminal that he would meet that needed his form of justice in his own mind. I really thought that this episode just really captured the characters that we know and love so well, rendered them beautifully. It reintroduced Karen at a pivotal moment. Not that we're kind of pushing Heather out the door, but at the same time, we kind of, with her promotion in Fisk's regime, we needed to get back to kind of Karen to fill that void, and bring us some healthy female energy that isn't deranged or warped or confused. Yeah, this is a great show, and I have nothing but praise for this episode. And again, the only minor nitpick I would have is that the way they were putting ideas and things out in Isle of Joy, episode 8, I just wasn't sure until I saw episode 9 that it was all going to come together in some coherent way. But boy, did they bring it together and surpass my expectations on it.
Yeah. When you think of it, the violence on this show or this season, or you wanna how you wanna name it, is more graphic than in the Netflix shows themselves. Talk about Disney showing guts, because basically you actually see the skull being crushed. In the Netflix show, it was the illusion of a skull being crushed between a car door. If you remember that, but you didn't see it.
Yeah.
You didn't actually see it. So kudos to Disney for actually not pulling their punches. Before I go to Merv, Loki's mom, you had a follow up.
Yes, I did have one complaint. At the mayor's ball, Daniel and BB are sort of getting together a little bit and enjoying each other's company. And then Daniel invites her out on the dance floor, and it starts off with "Play that funky music, white boy." But when it cuts and comes back after the commercial, they're playing a different song. So that so disappointed me. I was really getting ready to get down with that song. Anyway, I just wanted to throw that in.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, good catch, good catch. Merv, please don't let me down. You are going to tear these two episodes apart, even though you like them.
Easily. I mean, there is so much to complain about. I mean, I do have some mild nitpicks, not crazy ones. I still really enjoy these episodes, and these are just nitpicks. But I did feel, I think it was Loki's mom who was talking about some of the editing was a little bit strange. The specific scene that I can think of is, I believe it's episode 9, where after Frank had left Daredevil and Karen, they kind of left him back at his place, and then he's like killing a guard outside of a parking garage or something, and then he gets into a fight with a bunch of cops and kills a bunch of them, and then they capture him. I wasn't really sure what was going on there. Like, did they raid his house? Did he assault them? So I was a little bit confused on that scene. In the end, it doesn't really matter, but at the time, I was like, "What's he doing? Or where is he? Or did they come to him?" So there's a little bit of confusing editing there. The only other mild nitpick I have is in regards to Bullseye. And this isn't a problem with the show per se, but I was thinking whenever he showed up a lot in episode 8 in particular, I was thinking how much I kind of miss comic book Bullseye, which is a little bit more maniacal and less broody, if that makes sense. So and it's not a lack of consistency with this particular character, because this is the character from Daredevil season 3 from Netflix or whatever. That's perfectly fine, and I still really like this character. But in the back of my head, whenever he's just kind of staring off into space in some scenes, I'm just like, I kind of wish he had some kind of catchy one-liners, because that's the Bullseye I like from the comics. This one's still pretty good though. But those are really my only complaints. As far as episode 8, I loved all the ball, recall it, the fundraiser scenes, the black tie affair. I thought there was tension throughout, because we see Matt finding out that like Foggy wasn't just a revenge killing, that he was actually assassinated for a reason. He doesn't know all the reasons at the time. He can't put 2 and 2 together, but he knows this is all connected. And I thought like his particular meltdown in that scene, or those sequence of scenes, while he's trying to like talk to Karen and eavesdrop on everything, and just everything that was going on there was just like ramping up tension throughout. And I thought that was done really effectively. And everything with Fisk there, where he's just like throwing his weight around finally. He's not, he's in charge, and everyone's going to find out whether or not they, want to be or not. They're under his thumb now. The Fisk scene with Vanessa and Fisk, whenever they deal with Adam, or whatever the guy in the cage name was. I really liked that he didn't say it, but there was a key and there was a gun, and that was the choice. These are the 2 paths you can choose. I just like that kind of symbolism, I guess. Daniel, or is it Daniel? No, not Daniel. Daredevil had a really good quote in, I think it was episode 8, where he says something like, "We're not serving justice, we're babysitting chaos." I thought that was just a great quote, and really just epitomized his kind of conflict throughout this entire season. Let's see. I thought for sure Bullseye was going to target Vanessa, and maybe she was going to die in that scene. That was my expectation. And then they threw me a curveball, and one had him targeting Wilson, but then had Daredevil jump in front of it, and I was just like, okay, I don't know where this is going. This is interesting. And then the finale, I mean, everyone's already pretty much said how amazing it was, just to see Daredevil and Punisher fighting side by side. I absolutely love their relationship. I do think they have one of the best kind of dynamics, like buddy cops situations in probably comics, as well as at least live action stuff. It's just so fun to hear them either talk or argue, which is more often than not, or fight, bad guys together, because they have such different, positions on things, but they work together so well. And I just hope we get more of those guys together. Really interesting, there's so many cliffhangers, not cliffhangers exactly, but threads that are going to lead into the next season to touch base on. BB gave the commissioner her card right before he got Gregor Clegane, so what's going to happen there? Is Daniel going to be, on the Kingpin side forever? Is the Kingpin just declaring martial law for the state of the city of New York? The hell is that going to fly? Like, there were so many cool things that obviously we're going to probably have to wait like 9 years for now. But I'm really excited to see where any of these plot threads go in the next series or season or whatever we get.
Yeah, yeah. I cannot fault your review, Merv. I agree. You know what? Let's just move on to a rating. I let you all rate both episodes together or separately, whatever you want. And I'm starting with you, Lord Deathman.
Yeah. From First off, I just want to give props to this insanely great supporting cast. I think everybody is at the top of their game. And I didn't mention Poindexter. I forget the name of the actor who plays Bullseye on this series, but even though he's playing a zombified kind of a little less sociopathic version of the character we know from the comic books, I do like this interpretation, and I've grown to really like it. So props to everybody who's helped holding and raising this show up to the next level. My grades for episode 8 is an 8, coincidentally. And then I have to give episode 9 one of my rare perfect tens. I really was deeply satisfied with it. I love where it ended with Kingpin sort of being in control and this pervasive feeling of all being lost, and the hero now having to step up in a way to another level that they than they might have been acting on before. So I can't wait for the next season of this show.
Okay.
At 8 and a 10.
The actor's name, by the way, is Wilson Bethel. Uh, there you go. Murph, your numbers or number?
Everything a 9 out of 10. Just make it easy. Episode 8 and 9, episode 9 and 9. I'll give this whole series a 9. The season a 9. I thought everything was exceeded expectations based on how many production issues we heard about coming into it and how many changes they made supposedly. But I thought it exceeded where my expectations were, which weren't that great. So I thought this was a really good season of television.
Okay. Lokismom?
I do have one question though. It was regarding the Spider-Man issue. Now, at the end of the multi Doctor Strange and the multiverse, didn't Spider-Man wind up in a different configuration? I mean, Doctor Strange kept resetting history, and so now what's Spider-Man's status as far as the people of New York or the people of America or the world knowing who he is?
Well, they know that he's Spider-Man. They don't know about Peter Parker.
Okay, so Spider-Man's still a known entity. The memory
Yes.
wasn't wiped or his history wasn't wiped out. Okay, I was just want this. Uh, I couldn't really figure that out, and I didn't really want to go back and look at Spider-Man or Doctor Strange again. But anyway, my ratings. Well, yeah, it's going to be just like episode 8's going to be an 8, and episode 9's going to be a 9, and I'm going to give the entire series a 8.5.
Okay. Before I move to Taylor, Lord Deathman?
I had a quick follow up, and I wasn't going to say anything, but since Loki's mom brought it up, I want to talk just for a second about this strange mental aberration that some of the fandom suffers from, where because two superheroes operate within the same city or within close proximity to each other, they should be there for each other's emergencies, regardless of the fact that they have lives of their own to live and couldn't be there. And like, even if Spider-Man was to jump into this situation cold, would he be defending the police, right? Because this looks like weird vigilantism against regular working Joes. But that being said, I think that this mental illness and aberration now qualifies for entry into the DSM manual. I think I'm going to try and do a write-up that mental practitioners can sort of say, hey, this is just like antisocial disorder. It's really weird, and I just don't get why fans persist with it. Not
No.
every superhero can be everywhere for every emergency. It's just a fact of logistics.
Well, Peter's got to go to college.
Yeah, and I'm just mad that Val didn't show up because she's right there in the old Avengers building, as we know. Uh, Taylor, can I have your numbers for the last 2 episodes?
Yes. But before that, unfortunately, the MCU fans are becoming more and more like the Star Wars fans as time goes on. And by the way, I don't have to do this. Fans, okay? It's pretty bad now. A lot of the MCU fans are becoming way too much like the so-called Star Wars fandom. Be that as it may, some good news or some good news for me. This past weekend, I went to a Comic-Con, and among the celebrities there were quite a few MCU folks, including Vincent D'Onofrio himself was there. Mike Coulter from Luke Cage was there. Sean Gunn from Guardians of the Galaxy and a whole bunch of other stuff was there. Patrick Warburton was there, and if anyone forgets, he was in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., so he is part of the MCU. And Brent Spiner was there, who's not in the MCU, but he should be because he's Data. So I had a good time there. As far as my ratings go, I'm going to give both of these episodes a 10 out of 10,
Jealous.
and I am going to I'm going to make the whole season a 10 out of 10.
Okay, that's nice and easy. That will conclude this review of Champions for episode 8 and 9 of Daredevil Born Again, and the review series for season 1 as well, of course. We hope you have enjoyed our discussion today and in the last few weeks. If you did, you can help us out, like and share this review, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. And if you really want more of us, you can join our forum at sakar.freeforums.net. We would love it if you do that. Next week, we will start our review series for Andor Season 2. And a rumor has it the great Lord Deathman will host. And of course, we will review Thunderbolts in a few weeks as well. For now, I want to thank you all also on behalf of the rest of the champions and wish you to use the senses you got. Bye.